A hand shaking over fresh soil. A pregnant woman kneeling at her father's grave. And the man who vowed to love her stepping forward, not to comfort her, but to hand her an envelope. "Sign it." Ethan's voice cut through the burial prayer like a blade. "I'm done." Behind him stood Lauren, her rounded belly visible beneath her dress, a smug half-smile tucked behind faux sympathy. Ethan's parents hovered a few steps back, arms crossed, eyes cold, as if they had been waiting for this moment. Maya Johnson's breath hitched. The pastor hadn't even said the final blessing. Her father's casket was still suspended above the earth. And yet here she was, 8 months pregnant, knees in the mud, being forced to sign away her marriage while mourners looked on in stunned silence. Ethan thought she had nothing. He thought she came from nothing. He thought walking out today was the perfect escape. But he had no idea who her father truly was. No idea what she had inherited. And absolutely no idea how violently this decision would come back for him. What happens next is a reversal he never saw coming. The cemetery around Maya blurred into shades of gray, the heavy sky pressing down, the cold wind stinging her face, the ache in her belly fighting with the ache in her chest. She tried to reach for Ethan's hand, desperate for any warmth, any sign he hadn't fully abandoned her. He pulled away before her fingers even brushed his sleeve. Voices from the mourners faded. All Maya could hear was the rustle of paper as Ethan slipped the manila envelope into her hands. Her pulse hammered. Her vision trembled. She wasn't ready. Not for this moment, not for this cruelty. "What is this?" she whispered. "Divorce papers. I already signed." No remorse. No hesitation. Heads turned. Whispers spread. Humiliation wrapped around Maya like a shroud. She clutched the envelope, her father's grave at her knees, betrayal standing above her. And this was only the beginning. Now, before we continue, we need to step back, to understand how Maya got here, and why Ethan chose this moment to destroy her. Let's go back to where it all started. Before we proceed, please take a moment to like, subscribe and comment where you're watching from to support this channel growth. It's just a push of a button to you, but it means the world to me. Have you done it? Thank you. Now let's get into it. Maya Johnson stayed frozen where she knelt, the echo of Ethan's cold words still vibrating in the air like an off-key bell no one dared silence. The whispers drifting through the cemetery thickened around her like fog, but she barely heard them. Her father's name on the tombstone blurred as her vision swam, her breath catching in her throat. Dirt thudded softly against the lowered casket, each impact sinking with the pounding in her chest. Her knees dug into the damp earth, her swollen belly pressing forward as she tried to steady herself against a world that had tilted in the cruelest way imaginable. The sky above Atlanta sagged heavy and low, a curtain of gray pulled tight over the grieving crowd. Maya's fingers trembled as she gripped the edge of the tombstone for balance. 8 months pregnant, exhausted, and shattered by grief, she had barely been holding herself together when Ethan stepped forward and tore the last thread from her hands. He stood a few feet away now, expression blank, shoulders too relaxed for a man who had just detonated a grenade in his wife's life. Maya turned toward him again, searching his face for something, regret, hesitation, even the smallest flicker of humanity. But Ethan Miller looked the same way he had for months, distant, irritated, itching to be anywhere but by her side. Her hand moved instinctively toward his, reaching for the comfort she'd once known, for the reassurance she desperately needed, anything that might anchor her. But Ethan pulled away as if her touch were an inconvenience. The rejection sliced through her. The pastor continued speaking, though the words blurred into a muffled hum. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. But Maya wasn't listening. Her gaze had locked onto Ethan's hand, the way it dipped into his jacket pocket with mechanical precision. Her breath stilled, her spine rigid. Something was wrong. Something was terribly, impossibly wrong. Then she saw it. The envelope. Manila. Crisp. Out of place among lilies, prayers, mourning, and freshly dug earth. The air thickened, suffocating. Ethan stepped closer, blocking her view of the casket as though his shadow alone could eclipse her father's memory. "Maya," he said, his voice slicing clean through the pastor's prayer. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Even the breeze paused as if the world sensed what was coming. Maya looked up, confusion tightening her throat. "Ethan, what?" He held out the envelope. "Take it." Her hands wouldn't move. They couldn't. What is this?" she whispered, already fearing the answer. "Divorce papers," he replied. No emotion. No tremor. Nothing. "I already signed them." The words hit her harder than the contractions she'd been warned would come in a few weeks. A rushing sound filled her ears, like waves crashing, like the world collapsing around her. She staggered back, clutching the envelope with numb fingers. "You're divorcing me?" Maya's voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. "Ethan, my father just died. I'm carrying your baby. You're doing this here." "It's better this way," Ethan said flatly. "I'm done. Done. Done with her. Done with the life they had built. Done with the vows he'd sworn. Done with her grief, her pregnancy, her heartbreak. None of it mattered to him." A movement behind Ethan caught her eye. Lauren. Blonde hair perfectly curled. Makeup flawless. Hands resting proudly on her own swollen stomach. She offered Maya a small, satisfied smile, as if this moment, this cruelty, was hers to enjoy. As if she were stepping into a victory she'd always anticipated. Maya's stomach churned. The whispers grew louder. "Is that his new woman? At the burial? Lord have mercy." An elder aunt stepped forward, voice sharp. "Ethan Miller, have you lost your mind? This is her father's burial." But Ethan barely acknowledged her. His jaw tightened, eyes fixed somewhere beyond Maya, as if she were already part of his past. Maya's pulse raced. Panic clawed at her. "Ethan, please, can we talk after the burial?" "Not here. Not like this. Please." "There's nothing to talk about," he said. "Just sign it." The pastor had stopped praying. Mourners stood frozen, staring. The sacred space turned into a stage where Maya's humiliation was center spotlight. Her breath hitched, her entire body trembling. "After everything we've been through, you choose today?" Lauren rolled her eyes, rubbing her stomach as though emphasizing her presence. Ethan didn't even flinch. "Let's go, Ethan," Lauren murmured. "We shouldn't drag this out." Drag this out. As though Maya's life wasn't shattering at her feet. Ethan turned away, slipping his hand into Lauren's. Their fingers intertwined effortlessly, perfectly, as if they hadn't destroyed a family minutes earlier. As if Maya were already forgotten. A wave of dizziness washed over Maya. Her knees buckled. "Maya!" someone shouted, rushing toward her. But the world had already gone dim at the edges. The weight of betrayal pressed her into the earth. Her father's name blurred beneath her tears as Maya collapsed beside his grave, the envelope still clutched to her chest. Above her, Ethan and Lauren walked away without a single backward glance. Relatives rushed in, arms lifting her, voices calling her name, hearts breaking for her. But Maya barely heard them. The cold earth beneath her palms was the only thing keeping her from falling into the void Ethan had carved open inside her. The cemetery spun around her, grief twisting with humiliation, pain, disbelief, and a hollow fear for the child growing inside her. Ethan had ripped her world apart at her father's burial. But as Maya's breath steadied, her eyes drifted toward the tombstone, toward the name that meant everything. Her father. The man Ethan had underestimated. The man whose secrets had yet to surface. And as the wind shifted through the cemetery, carrying the last echoes of dirt falling over the casket, it whispered a truth Ethan could never imagine. He had walked away too soon. because he had no idea who Maya's father really was, or what she had just inherited. Maya's tears had barely dried on her cheeks when the world around her faded into a distant, aching blur. The murmurs of relatives, the soft shuffle of feet, the cold wind threading through the cemetery, all of it dissolved as her mind slipped backward, pulled into the life she once knew. A life where betrayal wasn't even a distant possibility. A life before Ethan. Before heartbreak. Before the graveside humiliation that shattered everything. Long before Maya Johnson learned the truth about her father's empire, she believed she grew up in a simple home. Her father, Henry Johnson, ran a modest auto repair shop on the edge of Atlanta. Grease-stained boots by the door, the smell of engine oil clinging faintly to his shirts, late nights spent tinkering with engines in their garage-turned-workshop. To the world, he was an ordinary mechanic. To Maya, he was a quiet giant with hands that could fix anything, except the pain he carried in his eyes whenever she asked about her mother, who had died when Maya was young. They lived comfortably but modestly. Maya never questioned it. Her father always insisted that hard work meant more than fancy cars or high-rise homes. She thought he simply preferred simplicity. Only now, after his burial, did she realize nothing about him had ever been simple. She remembered her college years, how eager she'd been to make him proud. She remembered meeting Ethan. He was the complete opposite of her world, polished, ambitious, sharply dressed even when he pretended not to be. They met during a volunteer event her university hosted at a local community center. Maya was painting a mural with a group of kids when a bucket tipped behind her, splattering blue paint across the floor, and Ethan's shoes. He cursed under his breath. She apologized profusely. He forced a tight smile. And yet, by the end of the day, he was hovering near her, asking questions, offering her water, trying to make her laugh. He was charming when he wanted to be. Disarming. Persistent. Maya had never met someone like him, someone who made her feel like the world had shifted its focus onto her. Their romance took off quickly. Coffee dates turned into late-night drives. Late-night drives turned into shared confessions and whispered promises. Ethan loved the softness she carried, the empathy, the steady love she gave without conditions. Maya loved the way he pushed her to dream bigger, to step into rooms she would have never dared walk into. Her father had remained polite but cautious around him, offering tight smiles and even tighter nods when Ethan tried too hard to impress. Maya never understood why her father's eyes hardened whenever Ethan bragged about his future, his plans, his desire to climb the ladder by any means necessary. But Maya was in love. So she married him. Their wedding was small. Ethan said he didn't want to waste money on unnecessary decorations. Maya didn't mind. She just wanted him. And for a little while, she had him completely. Their first year together was filled with laughter, shared meals, quiet mornings where he pressed kisses to her forehead before work. He held her hand while they planned their future, talked eagerly about becoming parents someday, said he couldn't wait for their first home. But like all storms, the shift came quietly at first. Maya remembered the first red flag, Ethan's obsession with wanting her father's approval. He would ask questions constantly. Does he like me? What does he think of my career? Why doesn't he ever talk about his business? Are you sure he's just a mechanic? Ethan couldn't understand why Henry lived modestly. Why a man so intelligent and composed would choose a simple life instead of chasing status. Ethan admired him, but he also envied him in ways Maya didn't yet understand. Then the promotions at Ethan's job weren't coming fast enough. Then the pressure grew. Ethan began working late, missing dinner, dodging questions. Maya would wake up at 2 a.m. to find him texting someone with his phone angled away. He said it was work. She forced herself to believe him. Love makes denial easier. The distance between them widened, thin at first, then suffocating. When Maya found out she was pregnant, she had cried tears of joy. Ethan had hugged her, kissed her forehead, whispered, We're really doing this, but the excitement in his voice felt forced. Hollow. 2 months into the pregnancy, he stopped touching her, stopped kissing her, stopped looking at her like she was the woman he had fought so hard to win. He grew irritated with her morning sickness, avoided her doctor's appointments, complained about her fatigue. Everyone has kids, he said once. It's not a miracle. Then came the lies. I'm working late. I'm grabbing drinks with the team. I fell asleep in the car. My phone died. Maya tried to convince herself it was stress, work, pressure, temporary. Red flag after red flag waved in front of her, and she kept folding them neatly away, too afraid of what it meant if she acknowledged them. Ethan's resentment sharpened. He accused Maya of holding him back, called her too emotional, rolled his eyes when she talked about her father's modest life. He didn't know, never knew, that Henry Johnson had built something far greater than a mechanic's reputation. And then the biggest shift of all, the one Maya should have seen coming, happened the night before her father was hospitalized. Ethan didn't come home at all. His explanation the next morning was flimsy, half-formed, and delivered with the confidence of a man convinced she wouldn't question him. Maya excused it. She always excused it. Until the day her father died. Until Ethan stopped pretending altogether. Until Lauren appeared. Until Maya saw text messages she tried to tell herself she misread. Messages she deleted before Ethan could see she'd found them. But none of those heartbreaks compared to the moment he chose to serve her divorce papers while she knelt at her father's grave. A betrayal years in the making. A cruelty sharpened by months of lies. And as Chapter 2 of Maya's life closed inside her mind, a new reality settled in her chest. Ethan hadn't just fallen out of love. He had been preparing to leave her long before the funeral. He had only been waiting for the moment he believed she was weakest. He had no idea how wrong he was. The day after the burial felt like waking inside a storm she could neither see nor escape. Maya stayed in her childhood room, the curtains closed, the air stale with silence. Her father's absence pressed on her chest like a weight she wasn't strong enough to lift. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan at the graveside, cold, detached, handing her divorce papers with the same indifference someone might use to pass a receipt. The house was unusually quiet. The few relatives who had lingered after the funeral kept their distance, unsure whether to knock on her door or leave her alone. Pregnancy exhaustion mixed with heartbreak, and Maya found herself drifting between sleep and panic, her thoughts looping. Why did he do it? How long had he planned it? How could he humiliate me there, of all places? By the third day, her phone had stopped vibrating entirely. Ethan had blocked her. Calls, messages, everything. She stared at the screen for hours, hoping the silence was a glitch. But no. It was deliberate, calculated, final. Her breathing grew shallow each time she remembered Lauren smirking from behind him, the rounded swell of her stomach, the way Ethan had placed a protective hand on it as he walked away. Maya wrapped her arms around her own belly, trembling. On the 5th day, a soft knock finally broke through the suffocating quiet. "Sweetheart," Aunt Nkem called, easing open the door. "You need to eat something." Maya sat up slowly. "I'm fine," she whispered, though her voice cracked. "You're not," her aunt said gently. "But you will be. You're stronger than this." Maya tried to believe her, but her chest felt hollow. Later that afternoon, more family friends arrived, offering food, prayers, and quiet company. Some avoided mentioning Ethan, others whispered angrily about what he'd done, swearing they would confront him. But Maya barely heard any of it. Their voices were distant, like echoes from another world. Just as the sun sank, painting the sky a muted orange, the front gate creaked open again. A tall, sharply dressed man stepped inside carrying a leather briefcase. His presence shifted the mood instantly. Good evening, he greeted, his tone formal but warm. I'm Mr. Adewale. I was your father's attorney. Maya's heart tightened. My father's attorney? Yes, he nodded. He left specific instructions for me to meet with you within a week of his burial. If you're strong enough, we can sit. A strange mix of dread and curiosity rippled through her. She followed him into the living room, where he placed the briefcase on the center table, unclasped it, and withdrew a stack of documents, thick, sealed, and heavy. As painful as this season is, he began, your father prepared extensively for this moment. He wanted you to understand the full extent of what he built and what he has left for you. Maya blinked. Left for me? But Daddy was just a mechanic. The lawyer smiled kindly, as though he had heard the sentence many times. Your father was many things, Maya. Only one of those things was a mechanic. He opened the first folder. Inside were pages filled with signatures, valuations, corporate seals, international account numbers, property documents, and share certificates. You, he said clearly, are the sole heir of the Adeni Group. Your father owned controlling shares in more than 12 companies: automotive, real estate, shipping, tech, manufacturing, and energy. Maya's breath caught. What? That can't be right. It is, he assured her. Additionally, you have a $500 million trust fund that becomes active immediately. Several properties across Lagos, Abuja, London, and Dubai are now yours, and there are global assets still being evaluated. Her hands trembled violently. She felt dizzy, as if the room had tilted sideways. He never told me. He intended to, the lawyer replied, but he feared people would treat you differently if they knew. He wanted you to build a life on love, not wealth. A sting tore through her chest. Love. Ethan had thrown her away like she was worthless, like she brought nothing to the table, like she was nothing. The lawyer pulled out a smaller envelope next, sealed with red wax, her father's initials pressed into it. This, he said reverently, is his final letter to you. It contains instructions he wanted you to read only when you are ready. He said you'd understand why. Maya stared at it, but she couldn't bring herself to touch it. Not yet. Even the sight of her father's handwriting made her throat tighten. The lawyer closed the briefcase slowly. There is one more thing, he added. Your father suspected certain people only stayed close to you because they believed he had nothing to pass down. He instructed me to say this to you. He paused, choosing his words carefully. He said, when they reveal themselves, do nothing. Let their decisions shame them. Your inheritance will expose them. Her breath hitched. Ethan. He had left her because he thought she came from nothing. He had humiliated her publicly because he believed she had nothing to offer him, no status to elevate him. And now, he was about to learn how wrong he was. The lawyer stood. I'll return tomorrow to review everything in detail. For tonight, rest. Your father trusted you with an empire because he believed you were strong enough to lead it. When the door closed behind him, the room fell silent again, but it was a different kind of silence. Not empty, not suffocating. This silence hummed with revelation, power, and a shifting tide. Maya looked at the sealed letter one more time before leaving it on the table. Ethan had walked away thinking he'd won. He had no idea what was coming. The house was quiet that night, quieter than it had been since the funeral. Maya sat alone in the living room, the soft glow of a single lamp washing over the documents scattered across the table. But her eyes stayed fixed on one thing, the sealed envelope her father had left for her. The wax seal, deep red and unbroken, seemed to hold her in place. His initials pressed into it felt like a whisper from the grave. Her chest tightened. She wasn't ready. But she also knew she couldn't move forward until she faced what he wanted her to know. With trembling hands, Maya broke the seal. The scent of old paper drifted out, and her father's handwriting, steady, strong, painfully familiar, stared back at her. My dearest Maya. Asterisk if you are reading this, it means my time has ended, and you are standing at the beginning of a journey I wish I could walk beside you. I raised you to be kind, humble, thoughtful, but I fear the world you stepped into has not treated you with the same softness. Asterisk. Already, tears blurred her vision. She wiped them quickly and forced herself to continue. Asterisk. I saw the sadness you tried to hide. I saw how Ethan changed, how he looked at you with ambition instead of love. I prayed I was wrong, but a father knows. I could not confront him without proof, and I didn't want to accuse him without certainty. Asterisk. Maya's breath faltered. Her father had noticed everything she thought she'd concealed. Asterisk. So I hired someone. A private investigator. 4 months, he gathered information. Quietly, discreetly. I hoped what he found would reassure me. Instead, it broke my heart for you. Asterisk. Her hand froze mid-air. She swallowed, continuing slowly. Asterisk. You deserved to know the truth. But every time I tried to tell you, you looked so hopeful, so determined to believe in the man you married. I could not bear to be the one to shatter that hope. So I left the decision in your own hands. When you are ready, ask my attorney for the file. The truth is there, not to destroy you, but to free you. Asterisk. The ink grew darker near the bottom, as if he had pressed the pen harder. Asterisk. You are stronger than you realize, Maya. And when the world turns against you, I want you to remember this. I did not build my empire for strangers. I built it for you. Use it wisely. Use it bravely. And never again allow anyone to define your worth. Asterisk. The letter ended with a simple sentence that wrecked her completely. Asterisk. I love you. Always have, always will. Baba. Asterisk. The pages trembled in her hands before she finally pressed them to her chest, sobbing quietly. It was grief and gratitude and heartbreak all at once. When she finally gathered herself, she stood and walked to her father's briefcase, the one the lawyer left with her earlier that day. At the bottom of the documents, hidden beneath property certificates and trust papers, she found a thick brown envelope with her name scrawled on it. Inside was a full investigator's report. Her heart hammered as she pulled out the first file. Hotel receipts. Dozens of them. Different hotels. Different dates. Most during times Ethan had claimed he was stuck at work or attending late meetings. Maya clenched her jaw. Next were printed screenshots, messages exchanged between Ethan and Lauren. Words she never imagined Ethan would use. Some were mocking her. Others were cruel. Asterisk. She won't suspect anything. She's too naive. Asterisk. Asterisk. Her family has nothing. I'm wasting my time. Asterisk. Asterisk. Don't worry, babe. Once she gives birth, I'll be done with her. Asterisk. Asterisk. Then we'll start our real life. Asterisk. Her fingers curled tightly around the pages until the edges cut into her skin. The next set of documents hit harder, Lauren insulting her. Asterisk. She looks tired all the time. How does he even sleep next to that? Asterisk. Asterisk. Can't wait for her to pop that baby out so Ethan can finally leave. Asterisk. Asterisk. She's so boring. No class, no money, nothing. Asterisk. Maya felt her throat tighten. Asterisk. No class. No money. Asterisk. If only they had known. She flipped through more pages, financial spreadsheets, suspicious withdrawals, and a proposed post-divorce financial plan drafted by Ethan himself. He had planned to cut her off completely after childbirth, claiming she had no significant contribution to their life. The worst came near the end. A medical timeline. Lauren's pregnancy dates did not match Ethan's supposed fidelity. Based on the reports, Lauren had likely been pregnant before Ethan began retreating from Maya. Before he started sleeping in the guest room. Before the unexplained business trips. He had been cheating long before Maya ever suspected. She pressed a hand to her belly as nausea rolled through her. This wasn't just betrayal, it was betrayal rooted in calculation, in cold, strategic deceit. Ethan had planned everything. His timing at the funeral. His public humiliation. His sudden confidence. He had believed Maya would walk away with nothing. That divorcing her before her father's assets were revealed meant he owed her no compensation, no responsibilities, no connection. He had thrown her out of his life because he thought she was worthless. And now, the universe had flipped the script. Maya sat back slowly, letting the folder fall shut. Her tears were gone, replaced by something steadier. Something hotter. Something stronger. Resolve. She looked at her father's letter again. The warmth, the warning, the love woven into every word. "I won't break," she whispered into the stillness. "Not for him. Not anymore." For the first time since the burial, her heartbeat didn't feel heavy. It felt purposeful. She wasn't the abandoned wife Ethan thought he'd discarded. She was the heiress Ethan had underestimated. And she was just beginning to rise. Maya woke the next morning with swollen eyes, a pounding headache, and a strange sense of clarity. The pain was still there, deep and bruised, but it wasn't dragging her down anymore. Instead, it felt like the ground beneath her was shifting, reshaping itself into something steadier. Something she could finally stand on. The PI file, her father's letter, the truth, they had broken her open. But instead of falling apart, Maya felt herself forming into someone new. By noon, she was seated in a sleek conference room overlooking the city skyline. Her father's longtime attorney, Mr. Harrington, sat across from her, flanked by a team of advisors and business partners who had worked with her father for decades. "Your father trusted you," Harrington said gently, sliding a stack of documents forward. "He prepared for this moment, even if he hoped it would come much later. You aren't stepping into this alone." Maya nodded, even as nerves fluttered in her stomach. She felt the heaviness of her pregnancy, the emotional fatigue of the past week, but she forced herself to sit straighter. She owed her father that. One by one, they broke down the empire she now controlled. Several automotive import companies, a large logistics firm, multiple commercial properties across 3 countries, a private tech investment portfolio, minority shares in 2 major corporations, and then the foundation, her father's largest and most personal creation. "We've kept everything under wraps," Harrington said. "Your father was a private man, and most people assumed he was just a highly successful mechanic. He built it that way on purpose." Maya stared at the spreadsheets, numbers stretching into the hundreds of millions. Her father. The man who fixed cars with his bare hands. The man who taught her to be humble, to work hard, to never flaunt what she had. He had lived a simple life to protect her. And Ethan had walked away thinking she had nothing. The irony burned. For the next week, Maya immersed herself in learning. She met department heads, reviewed business models, toured properties, and sat through strategy meetings. It was overwhelming at first, but slowly, quietly, she began to find her rhythm. She took notes, asked questions, observed everything. Her father's partners watched her closely, and gradually, their polite skepticism shifted into genuine respect. "You're your father's daughter," one of them told her as they exited a meeting. He'd be proud. For the first time since his death, Maya believed it. But rebuilding her mind wasn't enough. She also needed to rebuild herself emotionally. She began therapy through a grief counselor recommended by the foundation. She attended prenatal classes again. She took walks every morning and allowed herself to feel, really feel, every wound, every betrayal, every truth revealed. Piece by piece, she stitched herself back together. And then she began to move. Quietly. Strategically. Through one of her father's contacts, she established a shell corporation, untraceable, discreet, and perfectly legal. Under that shell, she purchased a significant portfolio of debts belonging to one specific company, Ethan's. His business had been faltering for months, relying on loans and credit he never expected to be called in. He had overstretched himself trying to impress Lauren, trying to live a lifestyle he couldn't afford without Maya's support. Now, every debt repayment schedule he depended on suddenly shifted. Interest rates quietly changed. Deadlines tightened. Penalties increased. Every move subtle enough not to raise suspicion, but sharp enough to cut. At first, Ethan brushed off the pressure. He assumed the economy was simply tightening. But by the second week, his calls to lenders grew frantic. He snapped at his employees. He stayed up late trying to salvage budgets that kept collapsing like sand in his hands. Lauren complained constantly in the background, unaware that the life she imagined was slowly slipping from her grasp. Maya wasn't trying to destroy him. Not yet. Just destabilize him. Just enough to make him sweat. Enough to make him wonder why everything was crumbling the moment he thought he had one. Meanwhile, she stepped into her new life with quiet confidence. She began upgrading her home, not with ostentatious luxury, but with warmth, comfort, and security her child would one day appreciate. She hired staff to help her through the pregnancy. She reorganized the foundation's charity efforts, expanding scholarships and launching programs for single mothers. Everywhere she went, people saw her strength growing, not loud or flashy, but steady and undeniable. She carried herself differently now. Not as the abandoned wife Ethan humiliated, but as the daughter of a giant, and the woman rising to take his place. The world hadn't noticed her yet, but they soon would. Her final act of the month was announcing the memorial gala honoring her father, an event her father's associates had suggested she postpone. But Maya refused. "We will honor him," she said firmly, surprising even herself. "And we will honor him publicly." The gala would be a grand event, gathering CEOs, public officials, philanthropists, and media, a night dedicated to celebrating the man the world believed was just an exceptional mechanic. It would also be the night Maya made her first official appearance as the heiress and new head of the empire. She imagined Ethan's face when he eventually learned. She imagined the regret, the disbelief. He had cast her aside at her lowest moment. But the woman rising now wasn't the same woman he'd abandoned. She was stronger. She was wealthier than he ever dreamed. And she was preparing for a reckoning he would never see coming. Ethan Miller used to wake up with confidence. He used to believe he had everything under control. His marriage, his image, his business, and now, his new life with Lauren. But lately, every morning felt like waking up inside a collapsing building. The walls creaked. The foundation shifted. And no matter how hard he tried to brace himself, everything kept tilting further toward disaster. It started with a single notice. A loan repayment deadline moved up unexpectedly. Annoying, but manageable. Then came a second notice from another lender, with adjusted interest rates that made no sense. At first, Ethan blamed the economy, the banks, the unstable market. But by the third week, his office felt like a pressure cooker. His accountant avoided eye contact. His employees whispered in hallways. The once busy office now felt ghostly, as if everyone sensed the end coming before he did. Lauren didn't help. She paced their apartment barefoot, grunting whenever her back hurt, complaining whenever a bill arrived, demanding reassurance at every turn. "Ethan, why is the electric bill double this month?" "Ethan, you said the landlord would give us more time." "Ethan, I need money for a new prenatal scan, the other one wasn't clear." She said scan, but they hadn't had a proper hospital appointment in weeks. Everything about her pregnancy felt off. Still, Ethan pushed aside the unease. He needed her to be pregnant. Her pregnancy was the justification for everything, leaving Maya, humiliating her, starting over. He told himself that Lauren was simply emotional, that pregnancy made women dramatic, that everything would smooth out once his business stabilized. But every time he asked her how far along she was, the numbers subtly shifted. "For months," she said 1 week. A few days later, almost 4 months. A week after that, around 3.5 months, I think. He noticed. He just didn't have the mental space to confront it, not when his company was burning from the inside out. One afternoon, his accountant finally snapped. "Ethan, these numbers aren't sustainable. You need outside funding or we're going under within 2 months. 2 months. The words echoed sharply through the room. Ethan slammed his fist on the desk, startling everyone nearby. "Find investors. We just need liquidity." "We've tried," the accountant cut in. "3 of our biggest prospects pulled out in the last week. Someone is buying our debt behind the scenes, pushing deadlines, tightening interest clauses. It's coordinated." Coordinated. Ethan's stomach sank. He had no idea who would target him so carefully. And yet, Maya's face flickered in his mind, broken, tear-stained, kneeling at her father's grave. He shook it off. Maya was weak. Maya was emotional. Maya would never fight back. He refused to believe she could be behind anything more complicated than filing for child support. Meanwhile, Lauren grew more irritable with every passing day. She slammed cabinets, yelled at him for being stressed, demanded expensive things he could no longer afford. "You said things would be better once you left her," she shouted one night, throwing a pillow at his chest. "They will be," he snapped back, "once the business rebounds." "When?" she shrieked. "When, Ethan? Because I'm carrying your child and I will not raise this baby in a run-down apartment." "Then get a job," he growled without thinking. Lauren froze, eyes widening with insult and fear. The argument that followed lasted hours, ending with Lauren locking herself in the bathroom while Ethan sat on the couch, head in his hands, wondering how his life had come to this. His parents didn't make things easier. They called constantly, their voices laced with the regret they refused to admit. "Ethan, this is embarrassing," his mother hissed over the phone. "We supported your decision to leave Maya because we thought Lauren would elevate our family, not drag it down." "You need to fix this," his father added. "Get your business together. You're making the family look incompetent." Ethan hung up mid-lecture, the shame simmering in his veins. He spent the following days scrambling, calling investors, begging lenders, attending meetings that went nowhere. Some investors canceled appointments last minute without giving a reason. Others suddenly claimed scheduling conflicts. It felt personal, but he still had one desperate hope. He had heard whispers, quiet conversations in business circles, about a rising philanthropist who was hosting a massive memorial gala soon. Someone with influence. Someone rumored to have recently stepped into enormous wealth. A woman named Maya Johnson. At first, Ethan assumed it was a different Maya, because his Maya was broke, pregnant, abandoned, and utterly powerless. But the more he listened, the more the name echoed unmistakably. A philanthropist. A rising public figure. A major financial force preparing her first public event. His ex-wife. Unease crept across his skin like a cold shadow. Something wasn't right. Something didn't make sense. He couldn't put the pieces together yet. He didn't know how she could possibly be connected to all these whispered rumors of wealth and influence. But for the first time since he walked away from her at the cemetery, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Fear. And the terrifying suspicion that the life he threw away might have been worth far more than he ever imagined. Maya stood in the center of the grand ballroom that would host her father's memorial gala, taking in the soft glow of the crystal chandeliers and the distant echo of technicians testing sound equipment. The room was breathtaking. Gold accents, velvet drapery, polished marble floors, but it wasn't the beauty that filled her with quiet power. It was the purpose. Every inch of this space was being crafted to honor her father's legacy and to dismantle Ethan's facade once and for all. Her advisors, seasoned executives, legal strategists, and trusted partners her father had handpicked years before, stood around her with tablets, blueprints, and schedules. The stage lighting will shift at the moment of your speech, one advisor explained, just before the presentation transitions into the full reveal. And the evidence? Maya asked calmly. All organized, encrypted, and ready. Videos cued. Screens synchronized. Nothing will play until your signal. Maya nodded, her hand resting lightly on her pregnant belly. She had grown steadier in the past weeks. The trembling had left her bones. The fear had left her breath. The betrayal had hardened into resolve, steel wrapped in quiet grace. She moved through the room with authority she had once only seen in her father. Her voice carried more certainty, her posture more confidence. Even the advisors, most of whom were decades older, watched her with something close to respect. Maya paused at one of the exhibit stations, a timeline of her father's life. Childhood photos, newspaper snippets, awards, engineering patents, investments. The guests would see a beautiful memorial display until the second half of the night, when the screens would shift from memories to secrets, Ethan's secrets. Make sure the transition is seamless, she said. I don't want anyone suspecting what's coming. Of course, her lead strategist replied. He'll never see it coming. Maya inhaled slowly. Her heart no longer raced when she thought of Ethan. Instead, there was quiet detachment and a clarity that bordered on vindication. She had spent weeks preparing not just the gala, but herself. Therapy sessions had helped her steady her emotions. Legal consultations reinforced her rights, her power. Meetings with business partners taught her how to navigate the empire she now controlled. And standing here, directing a team, orchestrating a night the city would never forget, Maya finally felt aligned with the woman her father always believed she could become. Across the city, Ethan was unraveling. He paced his small office, running a trembling hand through his hair as he scrolled through investor emails. Rejections, cancellations, ignored messages, all piling into a mountain of dread. His accountant had stopped mincing words. Without a miracle, the company would collapse. Then, one afternoon, an envelope arrived on his desk. Elegant, gold-edged, heavy paper. He recognized the logo immediately, the Lawson Foundation Memorial Gala. His pulse kicked. Maya, he whispered. He hesitated before opening it, afraid of what it might say. But when he finally slid the card out, he found a formal invitation addressed directly to him. You are cordially invited. He blinked in disbelief. She invited me, he muttered. For a moment, suspicion flickered in his eyes, but desperation swallowed it quickly. This gala was rumored to attract some of the wealthiest business figures in the region. Powerful investors, CEOs, philanthropists. If he could speak to even one, if he could pitch his company, if he could salvage just one deal. This is it, he breathed. This is the break I need. Lauren barged into the room, waving a bill in her hand. Ethan, we're behind on rent again. He cut her off. We're going to a gala. She blinked. What? Why? Investors. Money. A future. He grabbed his suit jacket. This is how we turn things around. Lauren's irritation melted instantly into interest. She always loved glitz and attention. A gala meant photos, prestige, a public stage where she could pretend her life was perfect. What should I wear? She asked eagerly. It doesn't matter, Ethan muttered, already lost in his fantasies. We won't fail after this. I'll get the funding. Everything will go back to normal. Normal. He didn't realize yet that normal died the moment he handed Maya those divorce papers. Back at the ballroom, Maya watched the technicians finish assembling the massive LED screen behind the stage. It towered like a silent judge, waiting, looming. On it would play Ethan's hotel check-ins, Lauren's fake medical scans, audio of Ethan calling Maya financial deadweight. His messages, "I'll drop her after her father passes, no inheritance anyway." Every lie would unfold in front of hundreds of witnesses. Every betrayal exposed under bright lights, leaving no room for denial. "Everything is ready," her advisor said. "All that remains is your final approval." Maya stepped back, absorbing the room one last time. "This gala is for my father," she said quietly. "But the truth, that's for me." She placed a hand on her stomach. "And for my child." Her eyes hardened with resolve. "Make sure Ethan gets a front row seat." The trap was set. The stage was built. And soon, Ethan would walk willingly into the one place he believed would save him, never realizing it was designed to destroy everything he had left. The night of the memorial gala arrived bathed in gold. Centricor's signature crest shimmered across the entrance of the Grand Meridian Hall, where hundreds of guests flowed inside. Investors in tailored suits, global philanthropists, energy industry titans, international press, and social media influencers eager for a glimpse of the newly rising heiress. Cameras flashed like controlled lightning, capturing an evening meant to honor a giant, but destined to bury two pretenders. Inside, the atmosphere pulsed with quiet wealth. Crystal chandeliers washed the room in warm luminance. Tall digital panels displayed photos of Maya's father through the decades, handshakes with presidents, groundbreaking ceremonies, and childhood moments with Maya herself. Every inch of the event bore her touch, elegant, intentional, devastating. Ethan and Lauren arrived late, dressed as though they were stepping onto a red carpet rather than walking into their own ruin. Ethan wore a sharp navy tux he could barely afford to rent, while Lauren clung to his arm with a tight smile, her dress too bright, too desperate. They posed at the entrance as if paparazzi were waiting for them, but no one turned. They were invisible here. Still, Ethan straightened his shoulders, convinced the night might turn his fortunes around. After all, the invitation had reached him at the perfect time, a sign, he thought, that his luck was finally shifting. But the moment he stepped deeper into the hall, something inside him shifted uneasily. He saw her. Maya! She stood near the grand staircase surrounded by her advisory team, board members, and dignitaries. Her presence drew the eye without effort, an emerald gown draping her figure gracefully, her posture regal yet calm, her aura radiating quiet, commanding authority. Not the broken woman he discarded. Not the trembling shadow from the hospital parking lot. She was untouchable. Ethan froze mid-step. Lauren followed his gaze and stiffened. "She looks different," she whispered. "Yeah," Ethan muttered, throat tightening. "Too different." But he forced himself to move. Investors were here, money was here, opportunity was here. His company's survival depended on tonight. Meanwhile, Maya pretended not to see them. She focused on greeting ambassadors, CEOs, and old family friends. But behind her composed expression, she felt the simmer of finality. Months of pain, betrayal, rebuilding, and planning had led to this very moment. Tonight wasn't revenge. It was closure, justice, truth. When the orchestra shifted into a softer melody, the lights dimmed, and the host announced her name, Maya stepped onto the stage. Applause rose like a wave, filling her lungs with strength. She looked breathtaking, not simply because of beauty, but because of conviction. "Good evening," she began, her voice steady. "Tonight, we celebrate a man who built not just a company, but a legacy. My father, Jonathan Hale, dedicated his life to integrity, innovation, and compassion. And I am honored to continue his work." Guests nodded, moved. Ethan swallowed hard. Maya continued, her tone warming. "Before he passed, my father entrusted me with something very precious, both his vision and his empire. The screens behind her lit up with the Centricore logo. As of 3 months ago, I became the primary shareholder and controlling owner of Centricore Energy, Hale Global Investments, Hale Foundation, and all affiliated assets. A ripple spread through the room. Phones were raised. Investors leaned forward. Ethan's face drained of color. Lauren blinked rapidly. She owns Centricore? Ethan's breath hitched. He had mocked her, belittled her, left her, believing she had nothing, believing she'd never matter. But the woman on stage now was a titan. Maya paused only long enough for the weight of her words to settle. And while tonight honors his achievements, it also honors truth. The giant screens dimmed. Ethan felt something icy crawl up his spine. No, she wouldn't. The first image appeared. Hotel logs. Then security footage, grainy but unmistakably him entering a hotel room with Lauren. Whispers exploded through the hall. Lauren stumbled backward. The next slide. Text messages. Ethan mocking Maya's emotional weakness, ridiculing her pregnancy, laughing with Lauren about trapping her long enough to get what we need. Gasps. Phones recording everywhere. Then came the PI recordings, Ethan discussing the plan to divorce Maya after childbirth, Lauren insulting her, the financial manipulation exposed in cold, brutal clarity. Ethan's world collapsed in seconds. No, stop, he shouted, pushing through stunned guests. Maya! Turn it off. Please, this isn't the place. But the screens continued, each revelation more damning. The final blow landed when footage of Lauren admitting her pregnancy timeline didn't match Ethan's claims flashed across the hall. Lauren slapped a hand over her mouth and bolted out, cameras following her like vultures. Ethan sank to his knees, shaking, humiliated, drowning in a sea of spectators capturing every second of his downfall. Maya, he begged, voice cracking. Please. I'm sorry. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you. I was stupid. I was lost. Please give me another chance. He tried crawling toward the stage, security gently but firmly pulling him back. Maya looked down at him, not with anger, not with gloating satisfaction, but with the serene detachment of someone who had finally healed. I forgive you, she said softly into the microphone. But forgiveness is not an invitation back into my life. Ethan wept openly. Maya straightened, her voice strengthening again. I stand here today not to shame anyone, but to reclaim my truth, to honor my father, to rise. The audience erupted into applause, powerful, supportive, overwhelming. The cameras captured the moment, immortalizing the calm, unstoppable strength of a woman who refused to break, and the shattered remains of a man who thought she never would rise. The gala's brilliance still shimmered behind Maya as she stepped out into the cool night, the applause echoing faintly in her ears. Cameras continued flashing in the distance, interviewers calling her name, but she had given enough tonight. The truth was spoken. The past was buried. The public had seen everything they needed to see. Her driver opened the door of the sleek black town car waiting for her, but before she could enter, a figure stumbled out from between two parked SUVs. Ethan. His tux jacket was gone, tie hanging loose, hair wet with sweat. His eyes were swollen, rage, humiliation, and desperation twisted together. Maya! He shouted, voice cracking. Maya, please, wait. Her security team stepped forward instantly, but she lifted a calm hand. It's fine, she said quietly. Let him speak. Ethan rushed toward her, hands trembling. Please, just give me a minute. You have to listen to me. She said nothing, her expression unreadable. He swallowed hard, stepping too close until one of the guards warned him back. He stopped, chest heaving. I know I messed up, he said breathlessly. I know I hurt you. I know the video made everything look terrible. It didn't make it look terrible, she cut in softly. It showed the truth. He flinched. I was stupid, he continued quickly. I was stressed. I felt like I wasn't good enough for you. Your father hated me. I made mistakes, but please, don't throw our entire marriage away over this. Ethan, she murmured, the marriage ended long before tonight. He shook his head violently. No, no, don't say that. Maya, I love you. I always loved you. Lauren was nothing. I was confused, scared. You were building this perfect life and I just felt left behind. You weren't left behind, she said. You chose your direction. His voice rose, cracking. I can change. Maya, I can be better. I swear. I'll be a good father. Just give me the chance. Please. Please, I'm begging you. Don't do this to me. He dropped to his knees again, except this time, there was no audience, no cameras, no lights. Just the ugly truth of a man who had lost everything and finally realized the cost. Tears streaked down his face. You can't walk away. Not like this. I'm ruined. My business is gone. My parents have turned their backs. Lauren won't pick my calls. I have nobody. He reached out, fingers trembling, trying to touch the hem of her gown. Please, don't leave me like this. Maya's gaze softened, but not with pity, only clarity. I didn't leave you, she said quietly. You left me. Long before tonight. Long before the affair. Long before the lies. He froze. Her voice remained calm, steady, composed, powerful. You left me at my father's grave. I'm simply returning the favor. Ethan's breath collapsed out of him. He sank fully onto the asphalt, sobbing. Maya stepped into the car without another word. The door shut with a soft, decisive click, as if sealing off an entire chapter of her life. As the car pulled away, Ethan shrank in the distance, small, broken, swallowed by the empty parking lot. A man undone by his own choices. Maya exhaled deeply, the city lights passing her window in streaks of gold. For the first time in months, her chest felt lighter. The future no longer felt like something she had to survive, it felt like something she could shape. The weeks that followed moved with quiet, steady grace. Maya returned to the Hale Foundation's headquarters, where her father's portraits now shared space with her own initiatives, education programs, energy sustainability projects, and women's shelters funded in honor of her mother. Her advisors trained her in global strategy. The board learned to respect her decisiveness. Investors admired her poise. She wasn't simply inheriting her father's empire, she was expanding it. At home, she felt the gentle kicks of the baby growing within her. Her doctors told her she was healthy, strong, ready. One serene evening, she sat by the nursery window, sunlight spilling over the white crib. Tiny baby clothes hung neatly in the wardrobe. The room smelled faintly of lavender and new beginnings. She placed a hand on her belly and whispered, "We're going to be okay." Because they were. Her wealth was secure. Her power undeniable. Her heart, finally at peace. The letter from her father rested framed on the shelf, its words fueling her strength each day. Somewhere across town, Ethan spent his nights in a rented one-room apartment, drowning in unpaid debts and unanswered calls. Investors avoided him. Former friends blocked him. Lauren had vanished from his life completely. And every news article about Maya's rise served as a reminder of the life he threw away. But Maya no longer thought of him. Her life had shifted onto a brighter, stronger path, one built not on pain, but purpose. As the evening breeze drifted through the open window, Maya closed her eyes, whispering a final promise to her unborn child. "We rise from here." And she did. Thank you so much for watching this story all the way to the end. I know your time is valuable, and I really appreciate you sticking with it. Now, I spent hours putting this video together, writing, editing, making sure every detail was perfect just for you. If you enjoyed it, the least you can do is hit that like button and subscribe. Seriously, it takes just a second, but it makes a world of difference for someone who poured their heart and time into this. Don't let all that effort go unnoticed. Show some love and support.